I'm not so sure it's crying out for spending cuts, because I think the majority of people who represent communities will look at the services that have already been cut and fear that there is nowhere else to go. Looking at bus services, libraries, social care, those kind of things. Nobody wants those to be cut any further. And raising taxes is distinctly unconservative, so of course we would look for reducing those taxes. But it is a bit of a balance, and as you've pointed out, that is one enormous black hole, and it isn't going to be filled simply by raising a few taxes, stealth taxes, and reducing spending. I mean, it isn't just going to balance out. Yeah. So I think the Chancellor needs to be a lot more inventive about what he's going to do, and nobody...
Doesn't he also need to be more transparent? Because you echoed the narrative there. You know, it's a huge black hole. Is it, compared to £2.5 trillion of long-term debt and 100 billion of annualised deficit? I mean, relatively speaking, it's peanuts.
It may be peanuts on a balance sheet, but if you look at the effect that it has on people's lives, then it is enormous. And I don't think we can take that away. When you're talking about numbers with so many zeros you can't comprehend, you need to look at what you can culpably aim at the government, which is this 50 billion. And a lot of it has been caused by the previous Chancellor, now current Prime Minister, with no plans as to how we get out of this. So I think there's a real worry that it's just going to grasp on those things which seem the easiest, very, very unconservative way of doing something, and ignores the fact that you need growth in businesses for longer term to get us out of this, rather than a quick fix at the moment of slapping taxes on the likes of you and I immediately, and also not taxing those with the broadest shoulders. I mean, that's where you need to go.
The other crucial fact, and you know it even better than I do, is that there is real anger out there. Take an example. You used to be a special advisor to an immigration minister. Ordinary folk are saying you can find millions of pounds to put people coming across the channel in small boats into hotels, spend millions of pounds on centres that are there to process people that don't seem to be terribly well run, and according to one of the papers, being run by amateurs now, people who've just started out, almost work experience type people. But you cannot look me in the eyeballs as a pensioner and say, I will stand by the triple lock. You cannot look me in the eyes as someone who's on universal credit, who your party desperately need to vote again, particularly behind the red wall. You can find that money, but you can't find mine.
I think that's always the problem. It's looked at as government money, and it isn't. It is taxpayers' money, and we need to be a lot better at putting that message across and spending the money where we should. And I do agree with you. The amount that we're spending on hotels just is inconceivable. We cannot continue on that respect. But also look at what's being spent in the NHS, and that is a whole more uncomfortable conversation in the long term.
And it's ring-fenced. Don't dare look there. Don't dare be radical.
And that's the real problem about it, because that is an enormous part of the taxpayers' money going into the NHS, which isn't supplying the services that it is meant to do. So there are an awful lot of conversations to have. I think immigration is the one that is mostly in people's minds because it's visible. The NHS is lurking there at the back, but nobody wants to tackle that.
Have you ever been gloomier as a Conservative Party supporter?
I don't necessarily think I have, and I've been a member for a very long time because I'm now quite old, and I think that this is probably the most concerned I've ever been, because all of those things that I stand for, that I believe in, the core beliefs of conservatism, are just being wiped out. And I think it's that fear of being a Conservative at the moment that is stopping the party from doing all of these things. They seem to be going back into a more socialist, budgetary manner, and I don't like that, and I don't think the general public wants that. Otherwise, they would have voted Labour in the last few elections.